Hello wonderful YouTube watchers and welcome back to another review. Today we have another film ticked off my watch list and my list of films directed by women that I wanted to watch for Women's History Month. Like I keep saying, I'm gonna try and fit in a couple more, but I don't like my chances. I mean, that's not to say that I can never watch female-directed movies again, it's just I really wanted to watch a whole bunch of them during Women's History Month. In that I have failed. Next year I will try extra hard. I will start straight away and dedicate the entire month to it, instead of making the decision like a week into the month and then supremely slacking off and letting outside factors manipulating. Oh, I wasn't manipulated, I just... long story. Anyway, today I get to talk about an animated film. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but I don't review a lot of animated films on my channel, which is so weird because I love animated films. I mean, guaranteed, I love way more animated films from when I was younger. And I tend to rewatch a lot of older animated films, like the ones that I grew up with, as opposed to watching more new ones, because a lot of the newer ones I watch, I don't particularly love. That's just a personal thing. They obviously, I feel, a little bit more designed for the younger generation, today's generation, and they just don't get me quite where they need to. The other films, on the other hand, the ones I grew up with, are there. Now, I have actually reviewed a few animated films over the last couple of years, but I only ever did written reviews for them. I never did video reviews, so there aren't many animated films being reviewed on my channel. I obviously have a lot of animated films of recent years to catch up on, and I've got quite a lot of them on my watch list. So maybe this year will be the year where I finally knock off some animated films off my watch list. Yeah, so for anyone thinking I don't like any animated films, I do. I love animated films. I just tend to watch a lot more of the older stuff. Like, I can watch Atlantis forever. And every Christmas I watch, you know, Beauty and the Beast, The Enchanted Christmas. But anyway, let's get into today's review of, let me try and get the word right, Abominable. I did it. Abominable is a 2019 American-Chinese computer animated adventure film directed and written by Jill Alton and co-directed by Todd Wilderman. The film follows three kids who must help a Yeti return to his family while avoiding a wealthy man and a zoologist who want him for their own needs. Films like this make me even more depressed to be unemployed. I know that sounds like a random statement, but if I had money, I would have seen this in the cinema and given it the money it deserved instead of streaming it, because damn did this movie get screwed over. Now, if you compare how much it cost to make with how much it made at the box office, then I guess you can say it earned an okay amount. But it could have earned so much more and deserved so much more, but outside forces got in the way of that, and one of those outside forces was my unemployment. Now, I'm not stupid. I know one person can't improve a film's box office, but boy do I feel guilty for not supporting good movies when they're out. In case that wasn't clear, I really like this movie. I love that this film embraces modern times while still giving into fantasy elements. I love that it chose to highlight a certain culture, but that culture again through the youth of today. You see several moments in this film where the young kids are into their phones and hobbies and stuff like that, and their elders are trying to instill tradition and the importance of family, and I think that's very representative of life today. It's more often than not the past generation trying to keep culture and tradition alive, while the new generation doesn't appreciate it or really care for it until they have a moment in their life where they realize its significance and embrace it. One of the things I love is that we have Asian actors or people of Asian heritage doing the voice acting of Asian characters. It's not a bunch of white people pretending to be Asian because no one can see their faces. I feel in recent years animated films cast more accurate representation than film and television do, which is funny because it's the animated films where you can't see the actors' faces. You have movies and TV shows casting white actors to play roles designed with other races in mind. You have them casting black people to play Latinx people and vice versa, as if all people of color are interchangeable. It's an issue that's improving, but we're not there yet. So I found it very comforting that there was accurate casting in this film, it makes it feel far more authentic and genuine in its approach to the story. This film has lovely animation, but then again, I have maybe once or twice come across a film where I found the animation to be quite bland. I find it hard to look at any animated film and say, well, this was bad in terms of its animation work, which is partly why I don't review as many of them, because how do I? What I enjoyed is that it saved more vibrant and in-your-face color visuals for the more magical moments. While this film certainly has an abundance of color, it cranked up the intensity of that color during scenes where, for example, Everest is using his abilities. I like that they did it because it puts more emphasis on his gifts and makes them feel all the more magical, because in those moments, they stand out from the scenes leading up to it. Going through the film, you forget that Everest is a yeti or even an animal, really. He acts very human and he just becomes one of the group. So these magical moments really showcase him and remind you how special he is, and it was always heartwarming to see. These magical moments, of course, are intensified thanks to a beautiful score composed by Rupert Gregson-Williams. I have two instruments I love more than anything in this world and wish to God I could play, and that's the piano and the violin. So anytime I hear a violin being showcased and put to work, I am a happy little Vegemite. The music was a combination of so many things. You could hear Chinese melodies combined with classical violin. The compositions felt emotional and comforting and magical, each piece perfectly reflecting the scene they were in. I think the fact the music was tied into the story and even had its own special use and purpose within the story made it all the more special and gave the score a great chance to be more showcased than it might have been, if you get what I mean. I loved all the characters in this film. I love that everyone has a lesson to learn. They all were well developed and fleshed out, and by the end of the film, you've seen genuine growth in them. They're not the same people they were at the end of the film compared to the start, and that's what I like to see. You want to feel like something was accomplished, that going through all that had an impact, and it did. One approach to this film's characters I loved was it didn't throw the villain at us immediately, it actually decoyed us, and I don't get that too often. Animated films like to be very upfront with who the villains are, they show them right off the bat, but this film introduces us to who we are made to believe is the main villain, but actually is just a misguided person who is being worked like a puppet on a string by someone who we later learn was the real villain all along. I think the reveal on that was a bit off kilter and didn't have the level of impact it should have, but I still love that they took this approach because it did keep levels in the story and gave you more surprise along the way. A story with layers is always a more interesting one. I was very sad to learn that this film was banned in several countries, including the Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia. This was because there was a brief moment in the film that shows a glimpse of a map. The map illustrated in the film what is called the 9-dash line. The 9-dash line is an undefined demarcation line used initially by the Republic of China from 1912 to 1949, and then the government of the Republic of China, which governs Taiwan, and the People's Republic of China, for their claims of the major part of the South China Sea. This has apparently caused many ongoing territorial disputes. Now, for other people around the world, that may seem trivial and like, what's the big deal? But we're talking about something that these countries have been fighting about for decades, so obviously to them it's a sensitive issue. Now, Vietnam straight away banned the film, but the Philippines and Malaysia were a little bit more open to negotiations. They simply wanted the scene in question removed from the film. Now, considering we're talking about something that is on the screen for a brief moment of time, like I don't even think a full minute of screen time, it could have easily been cut, or if they were willing to spend a little extra money, alter this one element that was causing so many countries so much distress. Universal Pictures, however, flat out refused to cut the scene, and as a result, Malaysia and the Philippines followed Vietnam's lead and banned the film from being released in their respective countries. A film depicting Asian culture, but mostly Asian characters, didn't get to be seen by a large number of Asian audiences because a studio refused to follow the requests of these governments and make this one small change, which, by the way, would have in no way impacted the film's story in any way. That's really sad. This film could have made a lot more money, been seen by more people, but nope, Universal was unbending. I really love this film, and if you haven't gotten around to seeing it, I highly recommend it. This is one of those films where I can't wait to introduce it to my nieces and see their reactions, because I believe they're going to absolutely love it as much as I did, or maybe not as much as I did. They certainly won't shed the tears I did, that's for sure. One thing I love about animated films as an adult is I look at them from a different perspective. One of the things I tend to walk away thinking when I've watched an animated film is I immediately think, what will my nieces think of this film? Because I absolutely adore my nieces. They are so freaking cute. Kind of crazy, but cute. And so I'm always thinking, how would they react to this? Because when I watch them and I put on a movie, I get so much more enjoyment from the film and a different type of enjoyment by watching how they react to it, what they take from it. For example, I actually had my eldest watch Black Panther. It was a couple years ago, and I put on Black Panther, and I got to see it completely differently because I'm kind of looking at it through her eyes, where she was just sitting on my lap and she's just like, who's that? And why is he doing that? That's not very nice. And then trying to explain it, and it's strange because you realize, wow, a child isn't going to understand in the certain intricacies that are even in animated films where there is a deeper meaning to something, and it's like, oh wow, well I get it, but how do I explain it to a child so that they understand it? But if you can find a way to explain it, you'll find that children are very on board. They really want to take it in, and if you just give it to them, they're just like, hell yeah, bring it on. And my nieces are definitely like that. Well, especially the oldest, she loves to learn. And so anytime I explain something in a film to her, she loves it. And it makes me love and appreciate the film more. So yeah, as an adult, I have a newfound appreciation for animated films, and it's thanks to my nieces. It's crazy that that's a thing, but I think that's actually really beautiful that I kind of am blessed with this opportunity to look at certain films from the perspective of an adult and the perspective of a child, and both ways I still love them. So those are all my thoughts on Abominable. So far so good. I haven't screwed up yet. Yay! If you have seen this film, please comment down below. If you subscribe to my channel and you watch my videos, you know the drill. Watch it, say something. Plain as day. Yeah, I really want to know if any of you guys really watched it, because I feel like not enough people did, and that really sucks. Thank you as always to my super amazing, fantastic, spectacular, amazing, wonderful, I'm running out of adjectives, patrons, who, you guys are awesome and you rock. I am off to go and try and breathe, so wish me luck with that, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, bye guys!